Okay, people, let's start. Meetup 119. Look at the weather right now. If those of you who came last meetup, do you remember the blizzard? Yes. Yeah, it was horrible. But I'm glad you made it today in this beautiful weather and you're not outside grilling meat and hanging out with friends, but here in the meetup. So press the button. Let's look at the schedule. And today we have a speaker from HyperVR, Ģirts Ķesteris, and he will talk about their crowning title right now, right? Shave&Stuff, about shaving people. Very nice. Next up we have voting is back. I got enough humans so you can vote. That is nice. But we still need speakers, so if you know anyone. After that, we're looking at the events and opportunities in the nearby future. And then it's up to you guys to do some show and tell. Then, well, I have the game written there, but unless Elvis Strasdin shows up, we might go without free beers, so. And I thought you came here for the knowledge. Yeah, I already wrote to him. I'm trying to contact him, but yeah. And after that, there's a new thing. Anyone who is here with any games or ugly prototypes, feel free to put them down. Siemens has already not waited for the invitation. And test your games, play each other's games, give feedback. And for those of you who are thinking, oh, I shouldn't show my game because it's not perfect, your game will never be perfect, so show it. And that's about it. So now a huge round of applause for our speaker of the day, Ģirts Ķesteris. Woo!
Hello. So, I'm some guy here. I'm gonna talk about a thing called Shave&Stuff. The title here is Shave&Stuff the VR road so far. I mean, it's a working title. I mean, I'm not sure if it should be here, but I mean, close enough. So, free keys. Let's see. So, who am I? My name is Ģirts Ķesteris. Maybe some of you know me from GameDev Latvia. I'm a board member here. Sometimes I appear at places, sometimes I don't. I'm also a lecturer at Vidzem University of Applied Sciences, teaching Unity for students for, I don't know, like 9 years or so, no idea actually. Maybe some of you know a terrible abomination called game Gorytel, which was made from a team called Nyarg, or properly pronounced Nyarg, which was Arnold inspired. Yeah, I can do Arnold Schwarzenegger voices apparently. But why am I here? I'm not talking a lot about myself. I'm talking about a title called Shave&Stuff from a company called HyperVR Games. So what is this HyperVR Games? Can you rotate so I can see slides? And a bit down. I can't read shit, so that far. It's a VR game dev studio, as you can see from the title. I mean, HyperVR, I mean, sounds fun, right? I mean, so we currently are about 9 people there. Close enough. 9 people working. So one of the things that it is based in Latvia. we are making casual VR games. I would say casual, more like fun games, working with a few mechanics and polishing them, and to make sure that they are fun from the beginning. So we were founded at 2021 spring. Maybe even faster, but depends what you count as founded. When this company started, it was actually called Hyper Reality, but domain was used, and we couldn't find up with a better name, so we called it just Hyper VR Games for GDC. Yeah. So I am talking not about that much about Hyper VR Games. I'm talking about our second title, but first actually released title called Shave&Stuff. So let's proceed. So here's QR code. I think I forgot where it leads, probably to some virus, but I think it is leading to Oculus page. So Shave&Stuff is basically a shaving simulator and coloring hair simulator, and yeah, where you can do a weird, you can do whatever, you can do weird hairstyles. That's very important. So I'm gonna tell a bit about this project in general. So this project apparently got Latvian Console of the Year game. It's a VR project which is currently, I'm stressing currently, exclusive to Oculus Quest or MetaQuest store. Yeah, so we happen to had this Latvian Console of the Year game. Yay, awesome. But a bigger surprise for us that we got at this year's GDC, we got Best in Play. We were one of the 8 games that got this title, Best in Play, meaning we had one of the best gameplays there. So that's this is what we were like, is this really happening? Wow. So you can see the Shave&Stuff here is with this low resolution image that it's among games called Null Space or the Wandering Village. Like I was like, holy shit, I want to play this game at some point. Looked very fun. And I was like, oh yeah, our game is there. So, I mean, before I talk a bit more about the game, maybe I can talk about this game's timeline. It was pretty aggressive, and we started this game's prototype in last May. Then we published that to Meta App Lab Store on July 20-something, 26, I guess. But it wasn't a lot of time until we started the prototype and published that to App Lab. The whole point was to get there as fast as possible. And we knew exactly what to do in this case. So. So at August later on, this small game went viral. It went viral in the terms of the relatively small VR market. And then we had to work a lot to keep up with the content, which is basically the point where you are struggling to make content for the game, more mechanics, more of everything. But that's, I would say, like a good problem to have with your game, right? I mean, it's that means that users like it, and they are demanding more, which is so basically at last year September we started, not really started, but like started very pushing content more and more and more, along with the changing the game backend along the way. It was fun. So I'll go through steps of the game. So how can I say what was the one of the things about this project that why we chose to go with it is about the project's potential, about the strengths of the project. So one of the things that we really wanted to have for us to have a VR project, since it's to have a project that's easy to play and which is like very positive first time VR experience when you're trying the VR for very first time, which is like really important. I mean, and but what I really liked about the prototype, when we're going to show how it looked like initially, that it's probably very YouTubeable and TikTokable, which was why one of the reasons why we chose this. I mean, the next stuff. I hope I'm not too loud. It had an understandable goal. Like relatively, you had the option to be creative to achieve the goal. Basically, the whole goal of the game I'll be showing in next slide, and it has a lot of replayability potential. So users would be creating the content themselves technically, even though if users choose not to obey the rules and do not match the target, which I'll show you. I mean, they have the option to basically create whatever hairstyles they want there. I mean, of course we had some sort of like limitations, as every game has one, but this game really worked with one of the best things about VR is the interaction, and worked on the strengths of that part. So this is how prototype looked like. You can see the frame drops there as well. So here you can color the character in the first part, and then the second part you can trim the eyebrows. The character had a huge monobrow, and then I'll have a big jump to thing that we actually published, I think. An early access version. Did you see the prototype? And now suddenly there's this. So we had one character, no main menu in the game. Right, that's very cool, right? I mean, you start immediately with the action, and but we had one level with complete game loop. So users could start and finish the game, and the loop was going on and on and on. And we, in the game, your core mechanics are shaving, trimming, coloring, and growing. But what you actually need to do, maybe in this GIF you can see the portrait there. You need to match the hairstyle that is there shown there. You need to match the hairstyle there to get the maximum result. And the problem was that initially we didn't calculate the actual score to just basically push it out there and see what happens. I mean, how users will interact. So you always got the maximum score in the game at first. This was the early access version of the game. We had the main mechanics there, which is shaving, trimming, coloring, and growing. And growing is totally realistic scenario in the world, right? I mean, you can grow back hair. So something like that. So users had fun mostly by just playing around with the character. So remember the previous slide? This guy? I didn't like it. I didn't like the guy. I mean, it was good enough for a prototype, but I didn't like the character or the shapes. And suddenly there's a jump in concrete different style here. So it took 2 weeks to come up with character that we liked. While the environment was easy to create, it took 2 weeks to find the correct style of the character, including the eyes. At the end, it was Coraline meets Wallace and Gromit, something, and with mash of different inspirations. But it took 2 weeks. We had a version where there were also eyes, realistic eyes, and it was too uncanny valley. It was creepy as fuck. But yeah, once we got the first character, which is Martin here, the name is Martin. Yeah, then suddenly it was, yeah, it makes sense. Now we can create new characters. Yeah, that's what happened with our early access. This is the thing that we released in July. And then we had a problem with keeping up with the content. So we released 6 different characters with 6 different skin tone options. While the characters were easy to make, relatively easy. I mean, nothing is really easy in game dev. Even if you think it is, it's always there's some sort of something to polish, something to change, something to improve on, and yada yada. So we have 6 characters at this moment and 6 different hairstyles for each. Actually, I think there are more for some of them. It might be outdated a bit, but in general, is that what was interesting here? That do you see that background again, that portrait there, right? For you to display the character there, you had to generate the character, assign the skin color, and then you need to pre-render the character there and make sure that it matches the style. It took like a kind of a while to make sure that it works at all, because initially we had like pre-baked images there. So basically we baked the images and put it there, and it worked. We have like a interestingly dynamic system where you can create characters and assign a bunch of stuff there. So I'll give some of that stuff about that in a moment. But what we ended up of having not just 6 characters, we'll probably have more characters. We have 3 different chapters. One is barbershop. And to not keep our game boring and at the same time have more complexity for us to manage and more things to worry about, we created a completely new level with completely new mechanics. The game is Shave&Stuff, right? It's about being in a barber shop, shaving people and trimming and coloring them. Why not in the same title add tattooing, right? Why not? Because we did that on Tattoo Salon, which is the second thing, and you can see how Tattoo Salon looks like in this slide. You basically stencil, there's like a sticker which you apply on place where you want to make a tattoo. They are done like things that are stickers that you can choose from. Put them on the hand and tattoo, and then clean it up. Yeah, this was relatively fun to do. Yeah, and of course we had to have some kawaii stuff, like because reference to gory tale, maybe. But and you can also add tattoos. Like when we released tattoo scenario, we released a character called Grandma, because you needed like a stupid reason why to add grandma in the game, and at the same time ensure that you can tattoo the grandma. So tattooed grandma in the game. So at the end, currently if you would go to our game, buy it or somehow else get it, get a key, for example, or whatever. Yeah, you would encounter 2 chapters, barbershop and tattoo salon. But currently, we have also a 3rd chapter called creative mode, where it's in space for some reason, and you can choose the skin color of the characters, which is totally fun. And yeah, like create Phantomas here or whatever it is. And tattoo the character. So this thing that is used here is called freehand tattoo gun. So you can draw weird stuff on faces, like drawing. I fell asleep on grandma's face, and you know, pranks like that. I'm not gonna continue of what you can else draw on the faces and everything else. So. And one of the things that I wanted to answer here, what was the biggest challenge? Well, I wouldn't say that there weren't, like, there were many challenges in this game. But I would focus on tech challenge. Not really, I mean, I'll tell you, I might briefly tell you about different challenges with something else. But in general, our biggest challenge was regarding tech part of the stuff. Maybe I mentioned something about scoring system, right? Do you see what's happening? So every time you shave, you are taking off, you're modifying vertices. So that's all done on GPU. So you can shave, you can trim. Shave, basically you can make somebody bald, you can color, you can trim, basically, which is kind of similar to shaving, and you can also grow hair back. So we somehow had to find a way how to score all that. That's a big problem to handle, and handle we did. So I'm not sure whether you can actually see this, but we have a thing in the game where there's starting look of the character. This is how it looks like in Unity, in our preview for each character. This is in Unity editor, wonderful editor script here. And the target look. So you start with this version of this is Gloria, one of our first female character. And this is the target look. So you as a user has to match the target, and also you have to ensure that user gets valued according to their result, right? So it doesn't, I mean, if you're doing really great, you receive 3 stars. If you're doing okay-ish, you get 2 stars. If you have done something, you receive participation award 1 star, and if you haven't done anything, you receive 0 stars. Simple enough, right? So challenge scoring. This is the part which I wrote, which I coded myself. I think I didn't mention what I'm doing at HyperVR Games. Actually, I am the lead. I'm doing. I'm leading the whole everything. So, and I code time from time nowadays. Originally, I was coding everything. Now I'm not doing that anymore, that much. But what I did, I coded this the most important mechanic for our game, where the problem is the mechanics are actually stored on GPU. So we had render textures with all of the height maps and color maps with everything. I'll explain that in the next slide. So, but the problem is we need to evaluate whether user is close enough or if user has made something similar to the target result, not exact pixel by pixel result, but close enough, which is actually the problem. Pixel by pixel comparisons are effing easy, relatively. I mean, if you know how loops work and everything else. Well, one of the problems, of course, is that if you need to go through pixel by pixel, there are so many iterations. So this is how it looks like in our game. This is a height map, and this is a color map. So there's these are 2 textures for each scenario. So there's expected sorry about here, it's actually not expected texture, it's expected result, which are two textures, color map and height map, which is expected. And the, I guess I was half asleep while writing this slide. Actually, it's not expected texture, it's expected texture and current modified texture, or the current one that character has. I need to compare them on the go. While with the expected texture, when we start the game, when we start the character, we know exactly what we need, so we can pre-cache that. That's easy. I mean, no performance issue, just storing that in memory. While you're modifying the character, you need to calculate that on the go, which is actually the one of the issues that I needed to solve, but that was relatively easy problem to solve. And there's a mask to discard the pixels that we don't need. We don't need to count black pixels or whatever, those pixels that we don't actually compare. Like we have, you can see this white area, right? And this area here and around there's like just nonsense there, so we don't have to like take those pixels into account, whatever. Yay. Last slide in this technical part. This is my GDC presentation. Okay, for GDC I would have prepared for a longer talk, of course, and I could just brag about how I made this scoring system and what I could improve it in it. But in general, I'm going to return to, this is the last part. This is very simplified version of the algorithm just explained. I skipped a few steps there, but in general, scoring algorithm, I load the texture that is there on the GPU on per request basis. I mean, per request, whatever, I mean. So, since this evaluation doesn't have to be in the same frame, right? We are, I had the options to delay that so we can safely load that asynchronously from the GPU, not in the same frame, so we don't have CPU spikes suddenly. So what I did next, I don't sample the received bitmap, so we don't have a, so we have a smaller data set to work with. Blur it, because the small nuances, what users are doing, doesn't really matter that much. Simple blurring algorithm with kerneling. If somebody has worked with OpenCV, maybe they understand what's happening here. And then we have a thing called Unity job, which compares expected result and current result pixel by pixel. I skipped a few steps here actually, but in general I wouldn't go in detail because you won't remember that in the next slide. What I did later on, I convert each pixel from RGB, because RGBs are not really reliable. So I converted that to double UV vector format and compared each channel. And then I was checking whether the values are below threshold. If they are below some sort of like percentage, they are close enough, and I'm counting them as valid pixels. And whatever. However, at the very end, what I receive is this image similarity percentage from 0 to 1. Well, this looks good enough on the paper. We have issues with gamma corrections. GPU outputs one part in linear gamma, one part in sRGB with gamma corrected version, so it showed different results. Before I even made that, before I even made this as a gameplay option, I created editor tool which compares data sets and checks whether this algorithm even makes sense with some of the textures that we had a tool where we can extract textures on the go. We shave the character, right? This is fun. This is a fun hairstyle. We want to add that for users. We capture the textures, put that in our scriptable objects, and we have a new hairstyle for users to match. In similar way, we actually gathered enough situations where, okay, this is actually current result, target result. These are supposed to give you 3 stars. These are ones supposed to give you 2 stars. These are the ones supposed you to give 1 star, and these are just test cases to ensure that the algorithm is not doing weird shit like saying that completely different ones are actually, adding test group to it. At the end, this small tool helped us, at least me, not to lose months in development here. So I made the initial algorithm in about a week, I think. And then we had some issues with gamma correction, with a bit with the performance in some cases where I was requesting, we can't do this every frame, of course, right? So I was doing this, I can't remember, every 1.5 seconds or so, but in general it was good enough. And at the end it created okay results. However, somebody from the team had to manage all the hairstyles, all the numbers, all the thresholds and everything, but at the end this solution worked. And initially I created this version as dead simple as I could, and I tested this as soon as I could to make sure that I don't over-engineer the solution from the beginning. I just wanted to see whether this goes in the right direction at all first. Then I started optimizing it, and then and then I think we released the shaving algorithm around October. Whatever. I hope I'm not boring with this presentation. It's a bit too technical maybe, but in general, maybe somebody got a bit of understanding how the scoring system works and what this was the biggest technical problem with our project. Remember when we were pitching the prototype, we had a prototype where each strand was a different game object, which is bad for performance, and it would, there are ways to work around that, but calculate the results, it's relatively easy. But if you have all that in textures, there comes so many problems to it. But in general, this prototype where we had the shaving on the GPU, it worked way faster, and it was more customizable, and it was, how can I say, showed more potential for user to use how the hell they want. And that's why we chose this, even though I was starting to be, I was like in a very first part a bit afraid of this part. When it will come to the scoring algorithm, I know that we'll have to do that very suddenly and fast. And I think the whole algorithm took 2 weeks. Basis was done on 2 weeks, and then it was fine-tuned in next month or so with patches. So yeah, that's how Shave&Stuff scoring algorithm works. This is one of the things that I really wanted to do in this project. My inner developer wanted to do this. Yeah, whatever. A little breather here. So one of the things about Shave&Stuff is that while I can give you a lot of GIFs, but it's one of the things in the prototype and in general why I like this prototype. When it was there initially, I had fun with a prototype, and I was like thinking how fun it will be with a fully released game. we have such potential here. That's why we went with it. And the road was with lots of stones and potholes and everything, but it was fun. So I'm gonna drop a screenshot from one of the game modes. Yo. Actually, we had a mode where we could shave a horse, but I wanted to have a llama or zebra. But the overall idea that how I pitched this, like, at least what I saw, this is not released anywhere. It hasn't appeared anywhere outside of this place, inside of our stupid little Slack chat. Actually, it was one of the references when we were doing, the question was, have we thought about dogs? One of the hyper-casual games that, or whatever mechanics that we were looking at, it was a dog shaving simulator, something in mobile games or something, whatever, low poly stuff. But what I liked about this, I wanted to turn horse into a fake zebra. Why we pulled this, the problem is that the VR, one of the problems with VR is that the problem is that you have a constrained room, right? So all the time what you have to think about, that every object, dynamic object everywhere is grabbable and you can somehow interact in VR in there, because users expect that the things that look dynamic, they are grabbable. This is one of the things that we need to take into account all the time. Second thing, we need to take into account the user constraints, that it can be smaller, bigger, users can be sitting, standing, flying, or whatever. Okay, of course not flying, but sitting, standing, why not? Yeah, like VR headset in a Rhodium. And one of the problems here, we couldn't find like a very good way how to a good game design solution for problem that our characters were vertical and didn't take much horizontal space. There was a different problem with the horse. That guy is huge horizontally, and we created bit different meta mechanics here, how to rotate the horse, but it was not very manageable. Everything had to be managed. I mean, this was just like an experiment. Maybe we will release a game called Animals and stuff in the future. Yep. What? Yeah, somebody is talking about huge horse asses. So, but the most important thing what happened is, and what we worked our asses off, is a thing called Metastore. We are being released on the Metastore next Thursday. And I can't stress how big this achievement is, because Metastore is a heavily curated market. Usually it takes a year to get there. We get there in six a bit plus months. So it just, I can't stress how big of achievement. In general, I could separate Shave&Stuff into segments and talk about each one of the segments. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna show you a trailer. Why not? Because I am tired of talking for a moment. Fake, yeah. Totally realistic. This is how a scoring system looks like. So yeah, and it's going to be out there for everyone. Actually, it's going to be searchable directly with keywords next Thursday. There's a lot of stuff to do there, but in general, about Shave&Stuff, well, I could brag about the scoring system that we got that far. However, I would like to say thanks to a guy sitting here called Ivars Nehefers, who is our product lead and was the lead artist here. Stand up for a moment, maybe. Stand up. Who's the real Ivars here? So he was the guy who was struggling to create the first look of the Shave&Stuff for 2 weeks. And one of the problems, one of the things that he was not afraid to destroy his work over and over again until we got a result that we all liked. This is really, really hard sometimes with artists. And the same thing with developers. Maybe they create some sort of system that needs to be thrown out and like, your code sucks, please delete it. Because it performs better without your code, yeah. Something like that. So Shave&Stuff wouldn't look like, or Shave&Stuff maybe, I would say, wouldn't exist without Ivars. So yeah. Some appreciation moment. So yeah, let's jump to the next slide. I don't have much time left. No, please don't play it. Yeah, we be hiring. So this is how our last chapter works. That is not yet released for players, but it's going to be released for players exclusively with MetaStore update 1.021M release. This is where somebody tried to replicate it, but for one of our characters called Emma. Yeah, I think he did a pretty good job here. We'll be hiring, so we're looking for developers, artists, marketing manager, project managers. So I'm just not going to put that on screen. Maybe somebody who's interested can approach me or Ivars, whatever. Thanks for having me. You can ask questions. I hope I'm not too, yeah.
Hi. Was there any big struggles with the frame rate, and how did you solve it? Right, because there's a minimum is 72 frames per second, right? Right. Did you have any big issues there? I think you do. No?
Oh yes. Also, we needed to. I'm not talking about the frame rate. Yes, it is not 60 frames per second. It's 72 frames per second. So it's not that we needed to support 72 frames per second. We need to support consistent average frame rate, which is even worse. So every time a frame rate dropped to 67, it's a problem with Meta. You might be blocked because of that. So we were heavily optimizing our game. How did we optimize? Our game has lots of dynamic objects, dynamic batching, static batching, whatever we could use GPU instancing. However, in this project, our KVAT wasn't CPU, it was actually GPU. So we had, typically with games, it's usually the other way around, unless you have unoptimized games with rendering. I mean, we had to optimize rendering, which was one of the things. And the scoring system, since it was doing lots of stuff with render textures, we needed to make sure that it's not eating too much GPU resources. And so we needed to work on that. So we had a bit of a struggle there, but it was manageable struggle, and we knew what we are doing. The biggest problems maybe were about game design and how to work around that, because the market is relatively new. But the biggest issue was not that the Quest won, but we needed to suddenly support Quest 1, which is a brick, basically support Shave&Stuff in potato mode. But let's put it this way, you need to support VR on a mobile device. Yeah, in a nutshell. Yeah, I hope that answered my question. More questions?
Did you have some testing kits, hardware to test in various devices?
So we are lucky that we are not mobile game dev company. We don't have to test our game with shit ton of different mobile devices. So we have one device which are focusing on Quest 2. So if it doesn't work there, it's bad. If it works there, it's good. And just check out the frame rate with the graphs that are, check out the graphs and CSVs and everything, ensure that frame rate is stable all the time. And then we had to support Quest 1. It was just more like a matter of working around the problems and everything else. So we had 2 devices to support. We also support Quest Pro, but we haven't tested that on because still we haven't received that device. Fun. So we are basically creating game in a relatively experimental market. Things are changing on the go. That's the beauty of VR, I would say. But I'm not complaining. I like doing what I do. Just ensure that everything. Pretty much, I have to ensure that everything, the most important things are thought about and they are killed or worked around, pretty much. And we need to come up with interesting game design choices to work around the VR limitations in general. Yeah, I hope that I answered.
Yeah, so you basically answered my technical questions, but I have more of a I associate VR with more of a core audiences, and you are making like more casual sort of title. So the thing is, do you know how long are the sessions typically, and how is the retention? Like how the users like typically like play every day, or I don't know, like yeah, how long are the sessions? And
so I had that written on my paper. So VR sessions in general, I'm pulling this data out of my ass. Last year was about 20 minutes, one typical session. It's I myself, I'm extremely motion sick. That's one of the reasons maybe why I might be a bit better at creating VR stuff, because I get motion sick sometimes from videos. And I'm a VR developer, can you imagine? So that's why when I'm jumping into make sure that something feels good, I'm checking out whether I don't create this game in Vomit Simulator, if it already is one. So about the average playtime. Actually, I looked it up today. From the very beginning of Shave&Stuff, it surprised me. The average, it's more like average playtime, the session length is 90 minutes. It's like, what? The game is, maybe that's why, because the game has a lot of replayability. However, this metric, I wouldn't say it's precise, because it's calculated, like the problem, initially we had something around 70 minutes, and it was jumping to 60 to 70. We have around 150,000 players for our game, which is huge for VR, for this small, relatively small field. And our rating is 4.4. I mean, the maximum being 5. And that's also with 400 ratings, that's good. Some of the ratings are basically, I pooped in my pants and 1 star. But in general, our game is targeted towards new guys trying out VR, more kids, and or maybe some VR enthusiasts who are trying something new, who are not that much into creating yet another shooter where you could attach many things for your microphone, like a scope. whatever. But in general, as far as I remember, those 90 minutes are actually session length divided by unique players. So it's not like very precise. It actually, the typical might be around 40 or something. I can't give you more information at this moment, for example. I hope I answered the question. But I was surprised.
Right, if you have any more questions, Ģirts is going to be here. Also, if you want to apply for a job, right? Yeah, why not? Okay, so another big round of applause for Mr. Ģirts. And next up we have, as I said, voting is back. So we're doing a 10 minutes break now. And also, please follow the link. Stropel actually made it that custom links are now a premium feature. So sorry, but you either have to, use that or use the QR code. And please vote. Siemens, could you put on the graph the picture? Okay, scan the code. And we have a 10 minutes break to refill your drinks or snack things or whatever, or toilets, yeah. Simon, uzliec grafiku. Kaut kur stūrītī blakus. Tu vari viņus tā kā abus paralēli uzlikt? Nu tā kā blakus. O. Un tagad kaut kā. O. Ļoti labi. Jā, man vajag paņemt sprintētos 5 minūtes, 2 minūtes. Jā, es sapratu. Jā, tas ir jāuztais. Case of the Gold. Nu jā, Andrejs būs nākošajā meetupā. Kas ir izstrādātāji viņai? Viņa nav. Andrejs atkal. Jā, tas... Es pateikšu. Okay, people, break is over. The break is over. We have a winner. So for the next meetup for May, we have Beards Plus. Andrejs Kļaviņš will tell about his wildly popular and successful game, Case of the Golden Idol. Next slide. Okay, let's look at what is going to happen soon or soonish. First thing, as always, I'm going to plug in that I need speakers for the meetup. So please, looking at some people, yeah. Also, Alternative Engine Jam, as always, every single month at the end of the month is happening. And TryJam is happening every weekend. If you haven't participated, I strongly suggest you to do that. Another thing is happening right now. BRSD is in progress. You have 11 days to submit your game. So for BRSD, any game that is Latvian made and that has not been announced before the previous BRSD qualifies. No additional, whatever. I strongly suggest if you are making any sort of games right now, especially for fun or for study projects, apply. Also, there's going to be another hackathon that is in Vidzeme University, AR VR hackathon, and that is happening from 19th to 21st of May in Valmiera. Yeah, in Valmiera. So it's for free. Again, if you have a chance to attend, I strongly suggest you to do that. I have attended. It's very fun. Also, ping pong and free food. Very nice. And the last thing is Castle Game Jam is continuing to sell tickets. So this is an international game jam this year happening in Latvia in Jaunpils. The tickets are being sold, and also at the end of the event, a conference for free for everyone for the entire day in Jaunpils Castle. And that's it for the announcements. Next slide. Show and tell. So who has something to show or tell or and tell? No?
Hello. I have something to show and tell. Basically, I'm working on a board game. I try to make some real-time strategy mechanics into a board game. Here you can see the process on the left is like the early prototype, then I'm playing with myself, then I'm playing with friends. Then I try to make like a cardboard thingy where to hold the cards. And this is the latest prototype. You can try it out after the meetup. Yeah, the game is for 2 to 4 people. It's pretty complex, but I think it might be interesting. And if you are from Great Games, I would like to talk to you maybe. And here's my Twitter. Thanks.
Do you have questions to Seimanis?
What is it like? What is it like? Like what? What's the gameplay? It's a question.
So the question was, you heard it because you had microphone. Okay, so the question, the answer is basically you have to earn victory points to win, and you can do it by destroying enemy senate or like completing some objectives that you have on the cards. And you complete these objectives by playing your unit cards, building buildings, and there are 2 roles, a general and a governor, a bunch of different units and stuff like that. Very chaotic explanation, but if you come after, I can try to explain better. Yeah, thanks.
And
Is there still like OP strategies in the game, like, or did you like remove them all?
So when we tested with you, it was possible to win a game by building a building, like a wonder in Age of Empires or something. Now it has been changed that you need to earn 10 victory points, and that building gives you 6 victory points. So if you build it, you'll need to build another one or get victory points in some other way.
Any more questions to Simonis?
Can you Zergrush?
I haven't explored all the possible strategies, but I think it's pretty difficult because you're like you have a limit how many units you can play in a turn. So default is 1, and if you build more barracks, then you can recruit more units. But then you need the income to keep it up. So I don't know yet. I think not, but we can find out.
Any more? Okay, if not, then who's next to show and tell and or tell? Silence. Okay, then I'm gonna go next. Can you open magical YouTube? YouTube. What is? Ja, atver man kanālu. Un šitā. So I had a task for my university to recreate the solar system, which I did. It was for a programming subject. I hate programming. I'm really bad at it. But I managed to do it. So yeah, this scale is actually between planets is rounded to like six zeros, like off. Because if you actually have the actual scale planet versus distance between planet, it's like you're at the second planet and there's a point which is sun, and that's pretty much how it looks. It's just 1 point and that's it. So yeah, this is actually based on Newton's 2 laws of attraction. So if you add a new planet, and in Unity physics you set the weight of the object, then it will actually integrate into the solar system. So you can just infinitely add objects in Unity editor. So yeah, that's what I did. Okay, questions? Because I had to for the like task in because if you actually
when will we have a demo for your RPG project?
That is not a question about the subject, but today. Any more questions?
Under the video was mentioned Vulkan, like a rendering tool. How was it related to it? Or was it on different video? I just saw Vulkan in the name, and I just wanted to ask if you implemented some kind of custom shaders or something like that.
No, it was probably in a different video. Because, yeah, this is just Unity URP pipeline, and that's all, folks. So, okay. This is this meetup inception. I think it's meetups inception. So, any more questions?
Will there be the game? The game.
Well, you saw Elvis. I don't know, he's out there. But if he's going to come back, then yes. Anyway, anyone else wants to show and or tell anything? No one. Okay. Then Siemens, what do we have next? We have the game, right? The game, yes. Elvis, the game. It's kind of sad that for the entire show and tell, half of the audience was just out, and then when it's time for free beer, you just come back.
Freaking Windows. Are you ready for the game? Yes. But my computer is not. Okay, let's see my PowerPoint skills. I haven't touched PowerPoint for like 15 years. So, let's play the game. The rules are simple. I will show you some pictures, you combine them, and then guess the name of the game. As always, there will be a new game, an upcoming game, an old game, and a game from one of the previous meetups. So let's start with the first one. 3, 2, 1. Oh, it's out of focus. Yes, it's Street Fighter. Are you? Yeah, so it's Street and the fighter jet. So the next one, this will be a bit harder. 3, 2, 1. No. I heard something. No. Yes, Donkey Kong. So it's, yep, it's Don, Key, and the scene from the movie King Kong. And the last one, 3, 2, 1. Move, chick. Get out the way. No. It's from one of the previous meetups. I guess I'll have to help a little bit. Okay. So, whose is this cake? Yes, Minecraft. So it's mine and craft.
So all the winners, both of you, get free beer. Go and grab the beer, and yep, thanks for playing the game, and see you in the next one.
All right, so that's it for the official part of this meetup. And now everyone who has their games or prototypes or whatever with them, please put them out so other people can play them and network and get more drinks.